Hello, this is Mr. Rasmussen with Algebra 1, lesson 80 or lesson 95. And a linear graph, remember, is something that graphs a straight line, and this is nonlinear, meaning that these are not straight lines. These have curves and different shapes that the equations would graph. Now, if you look at today's lesson, at first it may look a little scary because they show you a lot of different things, but really this is a very simple lesson because in the end, all they're expecting you to do is identify them, not actually go through and graph them. So let's look at some things here. First of all, the first situation, if we have, for example, if we have f of x is equal to x squared, if we have a squared in there, then it is going to graph into a shape that we call a parabola. It looks kind of like this. Okay, parabola. Squared in there, going to shape like that. Okay, and then all they're really showing you is the different situations where it might shift to the right depending on the equation, or shift down like they're showing you there, or it may flip and invert, as you can see if we put a negative in front of it. They're just showing you what it'll do depending on the different parts there. So I would look at that in the book if you're interested, but that's not something that they're going to require of you in your homework lesson. Okay, so if it has a squared, it's going to look like this, a parabola. And then just notice, I'll go a little further, if it's like a negative x squared, that actually flips it and the parabola opens down. If they put the movement here, it says x minus 3. They put that in parentheses and the squares on the outside. They're showing that it is shifting to the left or to the right 3 spaces. And then if the x squared minus 3, if it's not attached, the square doesn't apply, then you're showing that it's shifting down 3 spaces. So anyway, they're just showing you some shifts there, and something just to look at and say, that's cool. All right, so if it's squared, it graphs a parabola. Okay, what happens if it has a cubed? F of x is equal to x cubed. Well, if it's cubed, it's going to give you a shape that kind of looks like this. Okay, and then it shows you just what happens as far as the shifts or the inverting and all that, depending on how the equation gets modified. All right, then let's say we have f of x is equal to a square root. Well, we know that a square root, inside the square root, cannot be a negative number, and so that actually looks like it's a distinct starting spot, and then it goes up in a certain direction there. And it shows you the different things, how it'll adjust according to what you do to that, but you're just identifying the shape. All right, and then lastly here, if we have absolute value of x, then once again that doesn't include negative numbers. So that's going to graph something that looks like a V like that. Unless you stick a negative on the outside of the absolute value, then it would invert it and it would go down like that, and it shows you the other shifts, the horizontal shift and then the vertical shift, as far as how it changes depending on how the equation changes. But that's not a big deal to pay attention to. Okay, so once again, if it has a square, it looks like a parabola. If it has a cubed, it looks like this swiggly snake line there. If it has a square root, it has this distinct starting spot, and it goes out in one direction. If it's absolute value, it looks like a V, whether upside down or whatnot. All right, with that, let's look at the practice problems. I suggest you try to work through these yourself, and really all we're doing, we're not solving anything, we're just identifying. Okay, so let's work through practice problem A. Across the top here are my 4 equations, and I just want to identify which one goes with my 4 different shapes here. So let's work with number 1. Number 1, distinct starting spot goes out. That's identified with a square root. Only one that has a square root is over here. So k of x is equal to square root of x is the one associated with number 1. Number 2 has my little swiggly snake line. What does that go with? That goes with my cube here. So h of x is equal to x3 plus 1 is the answer for number 2. Number 3. Number 3 looks like my v. That goes with my absolute value. So g of x is equal to that equation. And then 4 is my parabola. The one that's left, f of x, is equal to x squared plus 2. And I've lined those up. Okay, we're going to go the other direction now. A little easier because I'm not going to write the equations out. All right, number 1. Number 1 is the parabola. Which one does it go with? Well, here's my squared. Number 1 goes right there. Number 2, distinct starting spot. Number 2 goes right here. Number 3, it's a v. That one goes right here with my absolute value. Number 4, my little snake line. There's my cube. Number 4 goes with that equation right there. So once again, all you're doing is identifying the mathematical function with what it would look like, the shape as you would graph it. All right, hope that goes well for you, and feel free to contact me if you need to. Have a great day.